The high-powered plasma bolt from the alien assassin's weapon stops mere inches from the human diplomat's head, halted in midair by an unseen force. Umbra, the Ladosian assassin, watches in disbelief as his supposedly easy target casually reaches up and plucks the deadly projectile from its frozen trajectory. The pet that had been following the ambassador everywhere suddenly stands on its hind legs, and Umbra's heart sinks as the creature pulls off its collar and addresses him in flawless Ladosian. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" Darren Taylor, the ambassador's human security partner, says with a smirk. He had been posing as Richard Graves's loyal dog this whole time, luring Umbra into a trap. Umbra had meticulously planned this hit for months, studying the human diplomat's every move, looking for any vulnerability to strike a blow against the species steadily encroaching on Ladosian territory and influence. He thought the small, furry pet would be Graves's weak point. But as Darren effortlessly subdues Umbra with shocking strength and skill, the assassin realizes he has gravely underestimated his foe. With his mission failed and his life now in human hands, Umbra resorts to pleading for mercy. He confesses he was merely a pawn, hired by radical Ladosians bent on sabotaging the tenuous peace between their kinds. Graves and Darren exchange a knowing look. This is bigger than one botched assassination. They need to get to the bottom of this conspiracy before it unravels the fragile coexistence humans and Ladosians have managed to forge in the colony of New Harmony. The unlikely duo of captor and captive must now work together to stop a sinister plot that threatens to plunge their worlds into chaos. Everything hangs in the balance. 2 species, 1 colony, and a future that will be shaped by the outcome of this unexpected alliance. Darren's encrypted comlink crackles to life as he relays the situation to Ambassador Graves. The assassin is neutralized, but there's more to this than a lone radical. We're dealing with a full-blown conspiracy here. Graves's voice is steady despite the gravity of the news. "Understood. We can't afford to let this escalate. Keep a tight lid on it for now. We don't want to tip our hand before we know what we're up against." Umbra shifts uneasily under Darren's unyielding grip. "I can help you," he hisses. "I know things. Who's behind this? What they're planning. Grant me leniency and I'll cooperate." Darren weighs the offer, his instincts warring with the urgency of the moment. He makes the call. "All right, assassin, you've bought yourself a chance. But if you're playing me," he lets the threat hang. The human adjusts his hold, making it appear as if Umbra has the upper hand. The Ladosian catches on quickly. "I have the human pet," Umbra declares into his comm, bringing him to base for interrogation. A terse acknowledgement follows. Umbra leads them deep into New Harmony's undercity, navigating dank alleys and hidden passages. They arrive at a nondescript door, which slides open to reveal a female Ladosian eyeing them appraisingly. "Umbra, I heard your mission was a success," she purrs, her gaze raking over Darren's seemingly subdued form. "And what a prize you've brought." "Zasha," Umbra greets her, inclining his head. "The human has information we need. I trust the Shadow Striker will be pleased." Zasha's eyes glitter with malice. "Oh, he will be. The Pure Stripes will soon be rid of the human infestation, and New Harmony will be ours alone once more." She ushers them deeper into the compound, past rooms filled with Ladosians training with vicious intensity. Holographic displays show key points throughout the colony, targets for the coming attack. Darren marks each location in his mind, his pulse quickening with every new piece of the deadly puzzle. He exchanges a loaded glance with Umbra as they're brought to an ominously sealed chamber. The door hisses open, revealing a cavernous command center. Dozens of Ladosians, their stripes bold and unsullied, turn to face the new arrivals. At the room's heart stands a figure cloaked in shadow, his presence commanding the space. "Welcome," the Shadow Striker says, his voice a lethal caress, "to the dawn of our liberation." Darren's heart pounds as he and Umbra step into the lion's den, the fate of New Harmony balanced on a knife's edge. In the face of annihilation, an alien assassin and human soldier stand as unlikely allies, the only hope of a colony on the brink of chaos. Darren and Umbra are escorted into the heart of the Pure Stripes compound, a sprawling underground facility bustling with activity. Heavily armed Ladosians with bold, unsullied stripes patrol the corridors, their eyes alight with fervor. The air crackles with tension as the pair are brought before the enigmatic Shadow Striker. As they enter the command center, a figure emerges from the shadows. Umbra's eyes widen in recognition, but it is Darren who voices their shared disbelief. "Elias Kane," he breathes, staring at the human male before them. "You're supposed to be dead." Elias smiles coldly, his eyes glinting with a zealot's conviction. "Reports of my demise were greatly exaggerated," he says, his voice a razor's edge. "I've been working to ensure humanity's rightful place as the dominant species, free from the taint of Ladosian influence." He gestures to the holographic displays surrounding them, each depicting a key target in New Harmony. The mixed colony is an abomination, a threat to human supremacy. It must be purged and the Ladosians brought to heel. Umbra, still playing his role, shoves Darren forward roughly. "The prisoner may have information on the human security forces," he growls, meeting Elias's gaze. "I will interrogate him thoroughly." Elias nods, a cruel smile playing at his lips. "See that you do, Umbra. We must know their every weakness if we are to succeed." As they are led to a holding cell, Darren and Umbra exchange a tense glance. The moment the door seals behind them, Umbra drops his pretense. "We have to stop this madness," he hisses, his eyes alight with urgency. "The attack will be devastating." Darren nods grimly, his mind racing. Elias plans to assassinate Ambassador Graves at the Peace Summit using sleeper agents. It'll be the spark that ignites the powder keg. They pace the cell, desperately seeking a solution. "We need to warn Graves and the security forces," Umbra says, his voice tight. "But we're trapped here, with no way to communicate." Darren's eyes fall on a ventilation grate high on the wall. "Maybe not," he murmurs, a plan forming in his mind. "If we can access the air ducts, we might be able to find a way out, or at least a means to send a message." Umbra eyes the grate appraisingly. "It's a long shot, but it's all we've got. We're running out of time." As they work to pry open the grate, Umbra chuckles darkly. "You know, I'm starting to regret not just shooting you when I had the chance." Darren flashes him a wry grin. "Well, where would be the fun in that? This way, we get to save the world and become unlikely heroes. Just another day for a pet and his assassin." The grate comes loose, revealing a narrow, winding passage. Darren boosts Umbra up, then hauls himself into the duct. They crawl through the claustrophobic space, each movement a gamble against discovery. Voices filter through the vents as they pass over various rooms, snatches of conversation painting a chilling picture of the planned attack. Darren commits every detail to memory, knowing each piece of information could be crucial. After what feels like an eternity, they emerge in a dimly lit maintenance room. Umbra spots a communications panel and sets to work, his fingers flying over the keys. "I'm sending an encrypted burst transmission to Ambassador Graves," he says, his brow furrowed in concentration. Pray to the stars he receives it in time. Darren keeps watch at the door, his heart pounding. They are deep in the heart of the enemy's stronghold with no guarantee of escape. But they have no choice. The fate of New Harmony hangs in the balance. As Umbra finishes the transmission, a sudden commotion erupts outside the room. Shouts and thudding footsteps grow louder, approaching their position. Umbra and Darren exchange a grim look, knowing their disappearance has been discovered. They steel themselves as the door bursts open, revealing a squad of heavily armed pure stripes. Elias Kane stands at their head, his eyes blazing with fury. "Well, well," he snarls, his gaze locking on Darren and Umbra. "It seems we have a traitor in our midst." Darren and Umbra move to stand back to back, falling into combat stances. They are outnumbered and outgunned, but they will not go down without a fight. The fate of New Harmony and the future of human-Ladosian relations will be decided in this moment. As the pure stripes close in, Darren and Umbra exchange one last determined look. They nod in silent understanding, ready to face whatever comes next. The battle for New Harmony's soul has begun, and they will give everything to see it through to the end. The moment Elias and his squad burst through the door, Darren sprang into action. He grabbed a nearby wrench and hurled it at the light fixture, plunging the room into darkness. In the chaos that followed, He and Umbra slipped past the confused attackers and bolted down the corridor. "This way," Umbra hissed, leading them through a maze of dimly lit passages. They ducked into an alcove as a patrol thundered past, their hearts pounding in their ears. Once the coast was clear, they continued their frantic escape. Umbra's eyes darted from side to side, searching for an exit. "There," he whispered, pointing to a heavy metal door. "That leads to the garage area." As they approached, the door's locking mechanism glowed an ominous red. Umbra produced a small device from a hidden pocket and set to work on the electronic lock. Seconds stretched like hours as Darren kept watch, every shadow seeming to harbor an enemy. With a soft click, the lock disengaged. They slipped inside, finding themselves surrounded by an array of heavily armored vehicles. Each was loaded with enough explosives to level a city block. "We need to warn Graves," Darren said, his voice tight with urgency. He tapped his communicator, praying it would work this deep underground. To his relief, the ambassador's voice crackled through. "Darren, what's happening?" "Sir, we've uncovered a plot to attack New Harmony. Multiple strikes on key infrastructure. You need to mobilize security forces immediately." "Understood. What's your situation?" Before Darren could respond, an alarm blared through the compound. Zasha's voice rang out over the intercom. "Intruders in the vehicle bay! All units converge!" "No time to explain," Darren said quickly. "We're commandeering one of their transports. We'll lead them away from the populated areas." He and Umbra scrambled into the nearest vehicle, a massive hover truck jam packed with weaponry. Umbra's fingers flew over the controls, bypassing security measures with practiced ease. The truck roared to life just as the first wave of pure stripes burst into the garage. Plasma bolts sizzled past as Darren gunned the engine, smashing through the bay doors and out into the streets of New Harmony. The city was a blur of neon and chrome as they tore through the thoroughfares, weaving between hover cars and pedestrian bridges. In the rearview screens, a convoy of pure stripe vehicles gave chase, weapons blazing. "We need to get them away from civilians," Umbra shouted over the din of battle. He pulled up a holographic map of the city. "There's an abandoned industrial sector to the north. We can make our stand there." Darren nodded grimly, swerving to avoid a barrage of fire that left a crater in the road beside them. He pushed the hover truck to its limits, the engine whining in protest as they rocketed towards the outskirts of the city. Behind them, Elias Kane's voice boomed from a pursuing vehicle. "You can't escape. The pure stripes will cleanse this colony of alien filth." As they approached the derelict factories of the industrial zone, Darren saw their opportunity. "There's our exit strategy," he said, gesturing to a massive scrapyard ahead. "We jump, let the truck keep going. The explosives should take care of our pursuit." Umbra's eyes widened as he grasped the plan. "Cutting it a bit close, aren't we?" "Got a better idea?" With a resigned shake of his head, Umbra began to key in the autopilot sequence. The scrapyard loomed closer, a maze of twisted metal and abandoned machinery. "Now!" Darren yelled. They flung themselves from the speeding vehicle, hitting the ground hard and rolling to absorb the impact. Behind them, the hover truck careened into the scrapyard, the pure stripes hot on its tail. The explosion rocked the ground, a fireball blooming against the night sky. As the smoke cleared, Darren and Umbra picked themselves up, surveying the destruction. "That should buy us some time," Darren said, dusting himself off. "But Elias is still out there, and he has control of the remaining explosives." Umbra nodded grimly. "Then we'd better move fast. New Harmony's fate hangs in the balance." As they set off to rendezvous with the colony's security forces, the race to save New Harmony from annihilation had only just begun. Darren's communicator crackled to life, Ambassador Graves's voice cutting through the static. "Darren, we've mobilized security forces, but we need your help. The pure stripes have planted explosives throughout the colony. We're running out of time." Darren and Umbra exchanged a grim look. "We're on it, sir," Darren replied. "Send us the coordinates of high-priority targets." As they raced through the industrial zone, Darren's communicator display lit up with a map of New Harmony, red dots indicating potential bomb sites. Umbra studied it intently. "The summit hall," he said, pointing to a blinking icon. "That's where they'll hit hardest." They commandeered an abandoned vehicle, speeding towards the city center. Bomb squads were already deployed, their vehicles scattered across New Harmony like a swarm of insects. As they neared the summit hall, Darren's communicator buzzed again. An unfamiliar voice filled the air, dripping with malice. "Hello, Darren," Elias Kane's voice purred. "Enjoying the show?" Darren's teeth gritted. "It's over, Elias. We've found your explosives." A chilling laugh echoed through the speaker. "Oh, but I still hold all the cards, or rather, the detonator. Care to guess where I am?" A garbled signal appeared on their map, its source masked but unmistakable. Umbra's eyes widened. "The old nuclear reactor," he breathed. "Clever alien," Elias sneered. "Come and get me if you dare." The transmission cut off abruptly. Darren banged his hand against the dashboard. "We can't let him keep that detonator." They arrived at the summit hall, where a security team awaited them. Captain Lee, a grizzled veteran, approached as they exited the vehicle. "We've located 3 devices," Lee reported. "My team's working on disarming them, but we need more time." Darren nodded. "Keep at it. We're going after the source." As they prepared to leave, an explosion rocked the building. Smoke billowed from a shattered window, and screams echoed from within. "Go!" Lee shouted, already running towards the chaos. "We'll handle this!" Darren and Umbra raced towards the abandoned nuclear facility, its dilapidated structure looming on the horizon. As they approached, plasma fire erupted from hidden emplacements. "Looks like Elias brought friends," Umbra growled, ducking behind cover. Darren activated his communicator. "This is Agent Collins. We need backup at the old reactor, now!" They advanced under heavy fire, Umbra's assassin training proving invaluable as he picked off defenders with lethal precision. Darren provided covering fire, his military experience guiding their movements. As they reached the main entrance, a crackling energy field sprang to life. Umbra cursed. "Elias activated the old defenses. We need to find another way in." They split up, searching for a weak point. Darren discovered a maintenance hatch, barely large enough to squeeze through. "Umbra, over here!" As Umbra made his way over, Darren's communicator buzzed urgently. Captain Lee's voice came through, tight with tension. "Collins, we've got a situation. A Pure Stripes extremist has taken Ambassador Graves hostage. He's threatening to detonate the explosives if we don't meet his demands." Darren's blood ran cold. "Hold position, Captain. We're almost to Elias. We'll end this." He turned to Umbra, tenacity etched on his face. "We need to split up. I'll go for Elias. You provide cover." Umbra nodded, his eyes gleaming with deadly focus. "Just like old times, eh?" They entered the facility, the air thick with the scent of decay and ozone. Umbra melted into the shadows, his presence becoming a whisper of movement. Darren advanced cautiously, every sense on high alert. The reactor's inner chambers were a maze of rusted catwalks and ominous, pulsing machinery. He found Elias in the heart of the complex, surrounded by holographic displays. The human supremacist grinned madly as Darren entered. "Welcome to the end, Agent Collins," Elias said, spreading his arms wide. "Shall we dance?" Darren lunged forward, and the 2 men collided in a brutal exchange of blows. They were evenly matched, each anticipating the other's moves with uncanny precision. As they fought, Elias's finger hovered over the detonator. "One press," he taunted between strikes, "and New Harmony burns." A stray hit sent Darren stumbling into a control panel. Alarms blared to life, and a computerized voice announced, "Warning, reactor meltdown initiated, radiation containment failing." Elias laughed maniacally. "What's it going to be, Darren? Me or the lives of everyone in the colony?" Umbra's voice cut through Darren's earpiece. "Stop the meltdown. I'll handle Elias." Darren hesitated for a split second, then dashed to the reactor controls. As he worked frantically to halt the meltdown, he heard the sounds of brutal combat behind him. Umbra and Elias clashed like titans, their fight carrying them through the decaying facility. Each blow echoed with the weight of their shared history and bitter betrayal. As Darren raced against time to save New Harmony, the fate of the colony hung in the balance. with Umbra locked in deadly combat against their greatest threat. Darren's fingers flew across the reactor controls, sweat beading on his forehead as he raced against time. Warning klaxons blared, their urgent wails punctuated by the computerized voice counting down to meltdown. Come on, he muttered, eyes darting between holographic displays. With a final keystroke, the alarms fell silent. The reactor's pulsing core stabilized, its angry red glow fading to a cool blue. Darren exhaled sharply, allowing himself only a moment's respite before tapping his communicator. Umbra, reactor's secure. What's your status? Static crackled, then Umbra's strained voice came through. Still engaging, Elias. The sounds of combat echoed in the background. Darren sprinted towards the source, navigating the maze of catwalks and decaying machinery. He rounded a corner to find Umbra and Elias locked in a brutal struggle. The two combatants moved with lethal grace, each anticipating the other's strikes. Umbra's lithe form darted around Elias's powerful blows, while the human supremacist skillfully deflected the Ladosian's lightning-fast attacks. Darren raised his weapon, searching for a clear shot, but the pair moved too quickly. He watched as Umbra gradually pressed his advantage, forcing Elias back step by step. Suddenly, Elias stumbled. Umbra seized the opening, his clawed hand poised for a killing strike. But before he could land the blow, Elias snarled, "Not so fast, alien scum!" He raised a small device, its red light blinking ominously. "Dead man's switch," Elias sneered. "You finish me, and every bomb left in New Harmony goes off. Your choice." Umbra froze, his eyes darting between Elias and the switch. Darren stepped forward, his voice steady. "It's over, Elias. Your people are rounded up, your plan's in shambles. Don't throw away more lives." Elias laughed bitterly. "You think I care about lives? This was always about sending a message. Humanity first, last, and always." "And what message is that?" Darren pressed, inching closer. "That we're no better than the monsters we claim to fight? That we'd sacrifice our own people for ideology?" His hand moved to his belt, fingers brushing a signal jammer. "I can override that trigger, Elias. We all go down together if you press it." Elias's eyes widened, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. Darren pressed on. "It doesn't have to end this way. Give us the override code. Save yourself. Save the colony." For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of decaying machinery. Then, slowly, Elias lowered the switch. 9 Alpha Tango 73, he muttered. Darren quickly input the code into his communicator, relaying it to the bomb disposal teams. Seconds later, confirmation came through. All devices neutralized. As security forces swarmed the facility, Elias glared at Darren and Umbra. "This changes nothing," he spat. "Humanity's dominance is inevitable. You've only delayed the inevitable." Umbra's eyes narrowed, but Darren placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. They watched in silence as Elias was led away in restraints, his venomous ideology shackled but not extinguished. In the aftermath, Darren's communicator buzzed. Captain Lee's voice came through, tense but relieved. "Collins, situation at Summit Hall is under control. Hostage taker in custody. Ambassador Graves is safe." Darren nodded, exchanging a weary look with Umbra. "Understood, Captain. We're secure here as well." As the adrenaline faded, the true cost of the day's events began to sink in. New Harmony had been saved, but the revelation of a human supremacist movement within the colony would leave scars not easily healed. Darren and Umbra stood amid the wreckage of the reactor, the unlikely allies bound by the crucible of crisis. Without a word, they began the long walk back to the heart of the colony, where the work of rebuilding both structures and trust awaited. Would begin in earnest. In the days following the thwarted attack, New Harmony buzzed with a nervous energy. The colony's streets, once filled with the easy mingling of humans and Ladosians, now carried an undercurrent of tension. Darren noticed the change as he walked to the Summit Hall for his testimony, catching sideways glances from both species. Inside the Grand Chamber, packed with colony leaders and security officials, Darren recounted the events that led to Elias Kane's capture. As he spoke, he could feel the weight of scrutiny from all sides. And that's when Umbra made the decision to defect, Darren concluded, gesturing to his alien partner seated nearby. Without his intervention, we might not be here today. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ambassador Graves leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Thank you, Agent Collins. Umbra, would you care to elaborate on your motivations? Umbra stood, his sleek form commanding attention. My people sent me here as an infiltrator, he began, his voice steady. But working alongside Darren showed me the value of cooperation. I choose to stand with New Harmony against those who would tear us apart. The room erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some cheered, while others shouted accusations of treachery. Captain Lee called for order, his booming voice cutting through the chaos. As the hearing adjourned, Darren and Umbra found themselves cornered by a group of reporters. Questions flew rapid fire. Agent Collins, how can we trust an alien assassin? Umbra, will you face charges for your past actions? What's next for your partnership? Before they could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the building. Smoke billowed from a nearby plaza, screams piercing the air. Darren and Umbra exchanged a grim look before springing into action. They raced toward the chaos, weaving through panicked crowds. As they neared the blast site, Darren's communicator crackled to life. Captain Lee's voice came through, tense and urgent. Collins, we've got reports of multiple explosions across the colony. It's not over. Kane had backup plans in place. Darren cursed under his breath. Understood, Captain. We're on it. As they approached the smoking ruins of what was once a community center, Umbra's keen eyes spotted movement in the shadows. There, he hissed, pointing to a figure slipping away from the scene. They gave chase, pursuing the suspect through winding alleyways. Darren marveled at how seamlessly he and Umbra worked together now, anticipating each other's moves without a word. Cornering their quarry in a dead end, they found themselves face to face with a young human woman, her eyes wild with fear and fanaticism. She clutched a detonator in her trembling hand. Stay back, she shrieked. One more step and I'll level this entire sector. Darren raised his hands placatingly. Easy now. Let's talk about this. What's your name? Sarah, she spat. Not that it matters to alien lovers like you. Umbra tensed beside him, but Darren pressed on. Sarah, I understand you're scared. The world's changing fast. But this isn't the answer. You don't understand anything, Sarah cried. Humans are losing everything. Our identity, our purpose. Or maybe we're gaining something greater, Darren interrupted. A chance to be part of something bigger than ourselves, to grow beyond old limitations. Sarah's grit wavered, her finger loosening on the trigger. Umbra seized the moment, his reflexes lightning fast as he disarmed her with a precise strike. As they led Sarah away in restraints, Darren's communicator buzzed again. This time, it was Ambassador Graves. Agent Collins, we need you and Umbra back at Summit Hall immediately. In light of recent events, the Council has made a decision. It's time to take bold action if we're to save this colony. Darren met Umbra's gaze, seeing his own mix of exhaustion and drive mirrored there. Whatever came next, they would face it together, a living example of the unity New Harmony desperately needed. Darren and Umbra entered Summit Hall, the air thick with tension. Ambassador Graves stood at the center of the council chamber, her face grim. Agents, she began, we've uncovered disturbing information. Elias Kane's network runs deeper than we imagined. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing a web of financial transactions and encrypted communications. At the center was a name, Alistair Hexton. A reclusive tycoon, Captain Lee explained, his voice tight. He's been bankrolling Kane and other extremists, playing both sides against each other. Umbra's eyes narrowed. For profit? Graves nodded. Precisely. By keeping us divided, Hexton and his corporate allies aim to seize control of key industries. Darren studied the data, his mind racing. We need to move fast. Where do we start? With Hexton himself, Graves said. We've tracked him to a secure compound outside the city. You two are our best shot at bringing him in. Hours later, Darren and Umbra crouched in the shadows of Hexton's estate. Security drones buzzed overhead as they navigated a maze of sensors and armed guards. Umbra moved like liquid darkness, disabling security systems with preternatural grace. Darren followed, each step measured and precise. They found Hexton in his private office, surrounded by screens displaying colony-wide unrest. The tycoon spun as they entered, reaching for a hidden weapon. "Don't," Darren warned, his own sidearm trained on Hexton's chest. Umbra circled behind, securing the industrialist's hands. "Alistair Hexton, you're under arrest for conspiracy against New Harmony." Back at the detention center, Hexton broke under intense questioning. He revealed a network of extremist cells scattered throughout the colony, primed for chaos. Darren coordinated with Captain Lee, dispatching joint human-Ladosian strike teams to neutralize the threats. Umbra's insider knowledge proved invaluable as they dismantled cell after cell. But one name kept surfacing in their intelligence: Varesh, a female Ladosian radical with a personal vendetta against human integration. As Darren and Umbra raced to track her down, alarms blared across the colony. A wave of explosions rocked key infrastructure sites. Panic spread through the streets. "Darren," Captain Lee's voice crackled over the comm, "we've lost contact with the orbital facilities. Reports indicate hostile forces have seized control." A new transmission cut through the chaos. Varesh's face, twisted with hate, appeared on every screen in New Harmony. "Humans," she snarled, "your time on our world is over. Leave now or watch as I bring this corrupted colony crashing down around you." Darren turned to Umbra, tenacity etched on both their faces. "We need to get up there." They sprinted for the nearest space elevator, now under lockdown. As they approached, they saw Varesh's followers establishing a defensive perimeter. Umbra's keen eyes spotted a maintenance access point. "There," he whispered, "our way in." As they prepared to breach the elevator, Darren's comm buzzed. Ambassador Graves' voice came through, urgent and strained. "Agents, you're our last hope. Stop Varesh before she can inflict catastrophic damage. The fate of New Harmony rests in your hands." Darren met Umbra's gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. Without a word, they moved towards the access point, ready to ascend into the heart of the storm. Darren and Umbra raced through the access point, the elevator's emergency power thrumming beneath their feet. As they ascended, Darren's mind raced, formulating a plan. "We'll need to split our forces," he said, voice low. "Create chaos, draw their attention away from the main objective." Umbra nodded, his alien features set with drive. "I can lead a team through the ventilation systems. Silent, efficient." As they breached the orbital facility's outer hull, alarms blared. Varesh's forces swarmed, weapons raised. Darren's team erupted from the elevator, a diversionary assault that sent the enemy scattering for cover. Amid the cacophony of weapons fire and shouted orders, Umbra and his strike team melted into the shadows. They crawled through maintenance tunnels, Umbra's keen senses guiding them past patrols and security checkpoints. Darren fought his way through corridors, each step bringing him closer to Varesh's command center. He could hear her voice echoing through the station's speakers, spewing vitriol against human colonization. Suddenly, a blast door slid open. Darren found himself face to face with Varesh's elite guard, their weapons trained on him. He dove for cover as plasma bolts seared the air around him. The firefight was intense, Darren outnumbered and outgunned. Just as it seemed he might be overwhelmed, a dark blur dropped from the ceiling. Umbra moved with lethal grace, his assassin's training on full display as he incapacitated guard after guard. Together they pushed through to the command center. Varesh stood before them, her alien features contorted with rage. "You're too late," she snarled, gesturing to a console. "One press and this entire station goes up in flames." Darren stepped forward, his weapon steady. "Then press it," he said, his voice carrying an edge of steel. "If you're willing to sacrifice your own people, go ahead." Varesh's hand hovered over the console, her drive wavering. Umbra spoke, his tone surprisingly gentle. "I know your pain, Varesh, the fear of losing one's identity, one's home." As Umbra continued, describing their unlikely partnership, Darren watched Varesh's expression shift. The hatred in her eyes gave way to something else. Uncertainty, perhaps even a flicker of hope. We don't have to destroy each other, Umbra said. There's another way. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of machinery. Then slowly, Varesh lowered her hand. Perhaps you're right, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As she transmitted the control codes back to New Harmony, Darren felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They had averted catastrophe, but he knew the real work was just beginning. Umbra turned to him, an unreadable expression on his alien face. You anticipated this, didn't you? He asked. Manipulated events to bring us to this point? Darren met his gaze, neither confirming nor denying. The future of New Harmony hung in the balance, and the path forward was far from clear. Clear. The future of New Harmony hung in the balance, and the path forward was far from certain. In the weeks that followed, life in the colony slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. Darren and Umbra were hailed as heroes, their faces plastered across news feeds and public displays. Yet beneath the veneer of celebration, whispers began to circulate. Umbra noticed it first, the sidelong glances, the hushed conversations that ceased when he approached. He dismissed it initially, attributing the behavior to lingering unease about his Ladosian heritage. But as days passed, a gnawing suspicion took root. Late one night, as Umbra pored over mission logs in his quarters, an encrypted message flashed across his screen. The sender was anonymous, but the content sent a chill down his spine. Financial records, communication logs, and surveillance footage, all pointing to a web of manipulation with Darren at its center. Umbra's fingers flew across the interface, following the digital breadcrumbs. Each new piece of evidence deepened his growing horror. Elias Kane's radicalization, the carefully orchestrated series of crises, even Varesh's ultimate capitulation, all bore the hallmarks of meticulous planning. The truth hit Umbra like a physical blow. He had been a pawn, a piece maneuvered across a board whose scope he was only now beginning to grasp. Their partnership, the emotional core of their journey, crumbled to ash in his mind. Umbra found Darren in the colony's central park, gazing up at the stars. Without preamble, he thrust a data pad into his partner's hands. "Explain this," Umbra hissed, his normally smooth voice rough with emotion. Darren's eyes flickered over the screen, his expression unchanging. When he looked up, there was no trace of the warmth Umbra had come to associate with his human friend. "You weren't supposed to find out," Darren said, his tone clinically detached. "Not yet, anyway." "Why?" Umbra demanded, his fists clenching at his sides. "How could you orchestrate such suffering? The lives lost, the damage done." "Were necessary sacrifices," Darren cut in. "I designed the peace, Umbra. A unified system will ultimately save more lives than my plan ever risked." Umbra recoiled as if struck. "You're the Shadow Striker," he breathed, the pieces clicking into place. "You've been playing both sides from the start." Darren nodded, a cold smile playing at his lips. "And you, my friend, played your part beautifully. The reluctant partner, willing to bend the rules, you gave me the perfect cover." In that moment, something snapped within Umbra. With a snarl of rage, he lunged at Darren. The human's eyes widened in surprise, but his combat reflexes kicked in instantly. They grappled in the moonlit park, a furious tangle of limbs and desperate strikes. Umbra's assassin training clashed against Darren's ruthless efficiency. Trees splintered, benches shattered as their battle raged. Umbra finally gained the upper hand, pinning Darren to the ground. His hands closed around the human's throat, squeezing with inhuman strength. Darren gasped, his eyes bulging, but that eerie smile never left his face. "Do it," Darren wheezed. "Prove me right. Show them all that we're no better than animals fighting for scraps." Umbra's grip loosened, revulsion washing over him. He stumbled backward, chest heaving. Darren sat up, rubbing his bruised neck. "You can't stop what's coming," Darren said, his voice raspy but triumphant. "The wheels are already in motion. New Harmony will be united, one way or another." Umbra stood, his posture rigid with dedication. "Not like this," he declared. "Not through lies and manipulation. I'll expose everything, tear down your whole twisted conspiracy." Darren's laugh was harsh and mirthless. "And then what? You think they'll trust you? The alien turncoat who helped me every step of the way?" Umbra turned away, unable to bear the sight of his former friend. "I'll find a way," he said quietly. "Whatever it takes to undo the damage you've done." As Umbra walked away, Darren called after him. "You can't change human nature, Umbra. We'll always need a common enemy." Umbra didn't look back. His mind raced, formulating plans, weighing options. He had been complicit, however unwittingly, in Darren's machinations. Now he would have to find a way to make things right, even if it meant sacrificing everything he had built on New Harmony. The colony slept on, unaware of the confrontation that had just transpired. But as the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, Umbra knew that the real battle for New Harmony's soul was only beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.